Welcome to my channel, it's Blank Arts 3D, and in today's video I will be showing you how I made Zenitsu's Katana. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, if you're new to my channel, here are all the materials that I use for post-processing my prints. Here I have my palm sander, this X-Acto knife, this toothbrush, any old used toothbrush to get the dust off from when you sand. And I also have this Bondo glazing spot putty, so to fill in like either holes or gaps or cracks in the prints. And I also have this smaller sander for the more finer details. If any the palm sander or the smaller one doesn't work, I'll just hand sand the prints myself. And I also have this dust mask, because you want to use a dust mask for when you sand your prints, because you don't want to inhale the little dust particles that come out of the prints from sanding them. And also you want to wear some eye protection just so you don't get any of the dust particles in your eyes. I also have various tapes for when I have to paint my prints. Another one right here. And then for when I do have to spray paint my prints, I use a filtrated mask so that way you don't inhale the chemicals from the prints. Also, I have these paint pens that you can use for the finer details. And I have this soldering iron that I use to weld my prints together. I do have this kind of like super glue, good enough to kind of hold the prints together, and then when it's held together, then I use my soldering iron. So most of these items I actually bought off of Amazon, but if you don't want to do that, you can also just look at local hardware stores or art stores. Okay, so for the print, I just went on Thingiverse and found this by Dylan 3D Print. This Zenitsu Katana Demon Slayer files, and I downloaded all the files necessary, and it builds like a katana. For the sword, it's the whole sword, so I went to Mesh Mixer to cut it up. You can go on YouTube, there's a whole bunch of tutorials on how to cut up and use Mesh Mixer. So once I've got it all cut up, I brought the files over to Ultimaker Kira, and this is how I had it set up. I got the blades here, and then I have the handle and everything else on here. I only put supports on the guard, and that seemed to be enough for me. You can add supports on here if you want, but I don't think you need it. I didn't need it. It came out just fine. Okay, so now that we've got all the parts printed, now it's time to weld it together. One thing I did forget to mention was the blade. These parts were printed 100% scale, except these parts were printed at 102% scale. So I bumped these up to 2% just because they tend to, this part tends to not fit well into this hole right here if you print all of them at 100% scale. So I made these bigger so that this could fit all the way through here, through there, and then through here as well. So print these at 102% scale, and then the blade at 100% scale on Ultimaker Kira. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the blade pieces, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put super glue and just glue it, let it dry for about 30 seconds, and then use my soldering iron to weld the pieces together. Okay, once the glue has dried up a little bit and you can kind of hold the two pieces together without falling off, what I'm going to do with the soldering iron is I'm just going to melt both parts together without making too deep of a cut in the hole, so that way we can salvage it and put Bondo later. So I'm going to try to get closer to show you how I kind of melt it together. Once you get that, just try to flatten it out as much as you can with the soldering iron. Just kind of, go over it like this just to flatten it out as much as you can, and then we'll let the Bondo take care of the rest. Okay, and once that's dried, it should be pretty sturdy enough because both pieces are pretty light. So then I'm just going to do the rest of the blade, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now that we've got the whole blade welded together, it's time to put some Bondo in the places that we welded and also in some other areas where you think you might need it. Okay, I've got the Bondo here and I'm going to be using this blade to apply the Bondo to the print. Okay, so we've got Bondo in all the places that I think I needed to put it in. Next part is sanding. Some parts might be a little deep. If it is, just go over it with the Bondo with the second layer. Wait for it to dry about 10-15 minutes and then go with the sanding afterwards. Okay, so now that the Bondo has dried, we are going to go sand it. I'm going to start with the 120 grit and I'm going to use my palm sander. 120 grit, then I'll move up to a 240 and then finish off with a 320. For the parts closer to the blade, I just used my hands to sand it. I was afraid that the palm sander would kind of break it because it gets thinner towards the blade side, so I just used my hands to sand that part. So I've sanded the blade down to 320 and it feels super smooth, and don't forget to sand this part too right here. And then let's just do a test fit to see if everything fits. The bottom part, this rounded part, I already placed it on the bottom of the hilt. So this one right here goes next onto the blade. Slide it all the way through up until it stops. And then we got the right here, the guard. Slide it all the way through, and then this part right here. Make sure you got the opening facing down so that the hilt can slide right through. And finally, this last part. Okay, so it looks like everything fits. And look at that. We pretty much have Zenitsu's sword right here. All that's left to do is paint it. You can use this smaller sander to smooth out any parts on all of these other parts if you see that there's parts that need to be smoothed out before we start priming. So I'm going to take these apart. I'm going to prime them separately so that I can paint them separately, and then since they already fit so easily, I'll just slide them on later. Just make sure that you're not putting too thick of layers. Too many layers of paint might not make these fit as easily as they are fitting right now. Let's go ahead and start priming. Okay, since I printed with white, I'm not gonna prime the hilt. I'm just gonna color the triangles gold on both sides, and because Zenitsu's handle is white and gold, so I'm just gonna not repaint it white if it's already white. Everything else I'm gonna prime, and then we'll color it the color it's supposed to be. For the primer, I'm going to be using this filler primer by Rust-Oleum. Okay, so you're just going to let one side dry and then switch to the other side and then paint the other side. You want to wait like 30 minutes or so. These dry pretty quickly and you can switch it over to the other side. While I'm waiting for it to dry, I'm just going to explain the color scheme. So this part right here, the bottom of the hilt, it's going to be gold, and then these two parts right here are going to be silver. For the silver, I'm using this Rust-Oleum metallic finish silver or chrome, and then for the gold, I'm using this Rust-Oleum metallic finish kind of like chrome gold color. And then for the guard, I'm gonna make the outside gold and then the inside silver. Now that the primer is dry on the blade, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over it with the black spray paint. I'm only gonna aim for the top part, these parts right here, and then the top part of the blade portion. And then for the sharper part of the blade, when the black dries, I'm gonna tape off the top so that I can do silver on or the chrome on the sharp parts of the blade. And then while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm also gonna, so I painted this, the outside gold, and I'm gonna tape it off now that it's dry so that I can spray the inside with the chrome silver as well. The black that I'm going to use is this Krylon Fusion Gloss Black. This tends to be a little runny, so go light on the layers and then build it up instead of trying to do it all in, you know, one spray. Okay, so that's how I have it taped off. Now we're going to use our X-Acto knife to cut around the edges so that we only get the inside. Alright, so there's that. It's carved out. Now it's time to paint it chrome. I also have these parts. So the bottom of the hilt is already gold, and these parts are already painted chrome. Okay, now for the hilt, we're gonna tape it off so that only the triangles are showing, and then we'll spray paint it with the gold. Okay, so I taped it so that I can see where I need to cut.
Guess it's all in the mentality.
Right, now it's time to paint. I'm gonna prime it first and then put the gold over it.
And we both losing patience at each other's statements. I feel like I should just run. I feel like I should just run. Yeah, I'm looking back and I said it bit my tongue, but the only rule states that what's done is done.
Okay, so all the parts that we need colored are already colored, except for the blade. So right here, the blade. Okay, we've got it black, but the sharp part needs to be chrome. So we're gonna go ahead and tape it up so that way we can color this chrome, and then once that dries, then we'll put the thunderbolts. For the thunderbolts, I'm gonna be using this gold colored paint pen to just draw it on there.
Damn, so I'm losing myself in the tall grass, hoping maybe I'm dreaming it's all sad. Wanna leave, I'ma go to the front, make a scene, you call, double text, leave a message.
Okay, now that the chrome has dried, now we're just gonna draw lightning patterns with the gold pen.
Hard, I forgot about the scars, and I'm back for what's ours. I know that you're the one for me, but we have some differences, and they're so obvious. Oh.
Okay, so I've got one side finished. I really liked how it turned out. I think the gold instead of the yellow was a really nice touch for the lightning. I didn't really follow a specific pattern because lightning itself has a very chaotic pattern anyway, so I just kind of freehanded and kind of had fun with the pattern, and give it a shot and use your own creativity to kind of make the pattern for the lightning. There's really no set rules or pattern to follow. I'm gonna finish the other side and then we'll start putting the whole katana together. Got both sides painted, so now let's put the katana together. I'm just gonna put glue near the top. Okay, now I'm gonna slide this piece on top. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry, and then next is the guard. And then this piece. Each of these pieces have names, I just haven't learned them yet. I'll probably learn it the next time I make a katana so I can refer to it properly. Before I put this on, I'm gonna put this part on the hilt first. So I'm gonna put super glue on this side so that I can just insert it. So that's on. And I'm gonna put super glue on the inside of the hilt so that it can slide in and kind of set while it's sliding throughout this part of the katana. There we go. Once everything dries, it should be all set in place and pretty strong. There it is, Zenitsu's katana. Alright, and there you have it, Zenitsu's katana. I really like my decision to go with the gold accent instead of yellow. It really makes the lightning kind of stand out, especially when you put it in the light. The shine just way better, I think, in my opinion, than going with yellow. So subscribe to my channel if you want to follow along for more creations. Also follow me on TikTok and Instagram if you just want to come hang out. My usernames will be posted at the end of the video. If you decide to make this yourself, tag me on Instagram and so I can see how it worked out for you. And also send me DMs if you have any questions. Also check out my Etsy. Most of my prints will be on my Etsy store for sale if you don't feel like making them yourself and you just want to purchase them. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next print.